Hey guys, how's it going? So in today's video, I want to talk about black walnut trees, specifically about their toxicity and about some of the plants that are sensitive being planted around them and plants that are not. So some plants have the ability to inhibit another plant's ability to grow, either underneath it or around it. Sunflowers actually have this property as well, but I think black walnuts are the most known for this. They produce a compound called juglone. It's really just concentrated mostly under the canopy of the tree, so from the trunk all the way out to the drip line, which is the outermost branches. I do have to preface all of this by saying I have absolutely no personal experience with this. I have never gardened around a black walnut tree. We do not have black walnuts. So what I've done is I reached out to a bunch of people, like growers, people that have black walnut trees and that have gardened with black walnuts for 20 plus years. And so I read a bunch of studies. So I'm compiling all of the information I found to relay to you guys. So I just wanted to let you know that. Also, I would love to know if you guys have gardened with black walnuts. I would love to know your experience. So leave comments in the comment section. We can start a discussion about it, and that's always a really fun way to learn. So one of the things I found the most interesting, and kind of the first point I want to make, is that after reading all of this information and doing some research, it seems to be a little bit overhyped. I think that there are some other things we need to consider apart from just black walnut toxicity. Like, I think we need to look at soil type, soil chemistry, what the water drainage is like, how much water the plants are getting, what your climate is like, what plants you're choosing to begin with. I think those things need to be considered, maybe not first, but definitely it's a huge part of our plant success. And I think that the list of plants that are really sensitive to black walnut toxicity is really small compared to the list that can handle it. And the reason I've kind of come to this opinion is because of all these different studies that I have read, and I'll link all of them down below. I think there's 6 or 7 that I've read. They're all from university or extensions, and I think that there's a lot of validity in a lot of these articles, but I do want to read an excerpt out of one of them. We are going to be talking about plants too a little bit later on, so I'll be talking about plants that are very sensitive to black walnuts and plants that do especially well. If you want to skip to that part of the video, we'll put the time signatures up on the screen for you, because I know you guys can read the article on your own time if you want, but it's some really interesting stuff, and it always helps me to read stuff out loud. I learn better that way. So here we go. This one is from the Washington State University Extension. So on the first page of this article, it talks about what is allelopathy, and I thought I would read this little paragraph out first because it'll help us start at the very beginning. So allelopathy literally means death to others. In its simplest sense, allelopathy is the ability of one plant species to affect the growth of another through their chemical exudate. So like with the black walnut producing the juglone, which is like a natural herbicide to other plants, apparently. While early researchers narrowly defined the relationship to include only the influence of living plants on other living plants, more recently the definition has been expanded to include interactions within the soil environment, which is so important because so much of our plant's ability to have success happens at soil level. Such soil-mediated chemical interference is arguably a more relevant definition as roots of adjacent plants share the same soil environment. Competition for water and nutrients, soil microbial activity, and other environmental conditions should be considered separately from any possible chemical warfare among plants. And that's what I was saying, we need to consider soil condition almost before we consider black walnut toxicity, because if our soil is junk down there and nothing has been done, then of course our plants are going to struggle, just right from the gate because of that, let alone if you add juglone into the mix. Therefore, allelopathy is currently understood to involve living or dead plant parts that release chemicals into the soil which have an effect on other plants, positive or negative. And no allelopathic chemical is better known and feared by gardeners than juglone. And on the second page of the article, there's a section called Experiments But No Explanations, which really this section helped me out so much because I was reading so many different studies and getting a lot of different pieces of information that this one kind of confirmed what I was finding. The first sentence says, inconsistent results have been the bane of juglone allelopathy research. For every report of toxicity in a tested species, another report will find no effect, which is exactly what I was finding as I was reading these trials and these studies. Researchers have pointed out a number of problems with initial assumptions in laboratory trials, which are summarized below. Juglone, a highly toxic chemical, is not found in intact tissues of black walnut trees. Instead, living tissues contain a non-toxic precursor called hydrojuglone, which is transformed in the soil to make juglone, which I found very interesting. I didn't see that in any other studied, like that kind of explanation and breakdown. So most hydrojuglone is contained in the roots and the shells of the walnuts. There is little in the leaves and virtually none in the wood, which that one I appreciated, because I feel like, and I'm hoping like this whole video helps with any kind of fear surrounding black walnut trees. And I think the other studies or like little articles I was reading online like made me feel afraid, like, oh my goodness, if you never clean up the leaves of your trees, or if you aren't really diligent about all these things, you're gonna have all this toxicity in the soil. But I just don't think it's quite as prevalent maybe as I once thought. Many researchers used artificial experimental methods to test for allelopathy, meaning artificial experimental methods means they're doing it in a lab with like stuff that's not out in the garden. Like it's not a test that's done right outside of your, like underneath your black walnut tree. So for instance, soilless media and laboratory extractions of juglone from walnut tissues do not occur in nature. So they were pairing like a soilless media, like a potting soil, with the juglone that they extracted from outside, from the black walnut, and putting those two things together. But those aren't the two things that are going to be meeting. It's the soil that's already out there that will be what makes the difference. And the next point says allelopathic responses are enhanced when potting media are used instead of soil, which is obvious because this is attributed to the increased permeability of the media compared to the soil. Things move around in that potting soil better than they do in our like average garden soil. So the reactions will be much different. So the lack of field test evidence to support laboratory results has spurred critics to insist that experimental testing include a functional soil system to more closely mimic what happens in nature. They note several conditions and activities that may account for the lack of positive field test results, like juglone undergoes chemical, physical, and biological degradation in the soil. That organic matter and clay particles in soils can bind juglone, reducing its movement within the soil, and juglone does not persist in soils with high microbial activity. And that's what makes me think like addressing soil concerns first might be your best bet for your plant's health. If you've got a soil that's rich and full of microbes and that drains really well and it's just a nice environment for plants, you're most likely going to have really good success even underneath a black walnut tree. That's what I'm gathering anyway. And improving your soil means like adding in organic matter, compost, adding in biotone starter fertilizer that's full of microbes, and preparing that soil for your brand new plants. Proper watering, especially when it's hot outside, like just making sure that those factors are met will help out so much. So the article has a lot of other good information in it, and I highly recommend you read this because it's very interesting. I mean, it's interesting to me, and I don't even have a black walnut tree. But at the very end of the article, there is a list of action items for gardeners that I wanted to run through really quick because I think that it's helpful to just kind of know where to start and have some bullet points that you can start checking off. First one is to provide adequate irrigation for landscape plants during drier, warmer weather. All plant roots compete for water, nutrients, and oxygen. The denser your plantings, the more intense competition will be. So being mindful of that, giving your plants the right amount of water is super helpful. Plant sun-loving plants in full sun, not under tree canopies. Shade-tolerant species are the best choice under walnut trees. And I know that varies a little bit. Like if you plant on the very edge, like at the drip line of your tree on the west side where it's gonna get the hot afternoon sun, you probably get away with some sun-loving plants, but just be mindful of that. Because underneath tree canopy, I mean, I've tried to put sun lovers underneath like crab apples and other things that we have here. It never works like I think it's going to, because full sun plants really need like full sun, not just like this dappled type of sun. Mulch well with arborist wood chips to retain soil moisture and to nourish beneficial soil life, including mycorrhizae, which we just talked about, adding compost into the soil, top dressing with arborist wood chips. Enjoy your walnut trees. Not only are they robust landscape plants, they provide food and habitat for wildlife. And the last one is you can use walnut wood chips for mulch if you have them. They will not harm plants and work just as well as those from other woody species, because as we read earlier on, there is like little to no juglone in the wood portions of the tree. All right, so now let's talk about plants. First off, I want to start with the list of plants that are believed to be sensitive to black walnut toxicity. And I saw lots of different lists online, so I kind of cobbled this one together, and this was kind of like a general consensus of things that just haven't succeeded underneath a black walnut tree. And so I'm just going to run through the list really quick, and we will be putting these lists kind of more in a complete form down in the description of this video down below. So in the annuals and vegetables section, we've got cabbage, eggplant, pepper, petunia, potato, and tomato. And I think tomato was the #1 thing listed, like don't plant it around a black walnut. The herbaceous perennials, we've got Baptisia, Columbine, Peony, and Rhubarb. For shrubs, blueberry, lilac, privet, potentilla, rhododendron, and yews. And trees, white birch, hackberry, larch, linden, saucer magnolia, mugo pine, red pine, white pine, Norway spruce, and silver maple. So it's a fairly small list, and there are a few others out there that people have included on their list. And I think, again, it kind of goes back to maybe climate and soil condition and all those things, and it may not have been a black walnut issue, but these are all ones that people agreed on. And then if you Google plants that you can put underneath a black walnut, you will find list after long list after long list of plants that do well underneath black walnuts. So I'm going to give you an extremely abridged version of things that are common, they're easy to find, they're easy to grow. Like I have grown all of these different things, and you know, it's not underneath a black walnut, but I can vouch for the fact that they do really well for me in my garden situation. So ferns, lots of different varieties of ferns, hostas, heuchera, all of those things which will do really well in the shady part of the tree. Yarrow, echinacea, hardy geraniums, Shasta daisies, monarda, phlox, sedum, and common daylilies, like going bananas. I love that daylily. And then for shrubs, barberries, forsythia, rosa sharon, hydrangea arborescens, so your Annabelle type hydrangeas, elderberry, viburnum, and witch hazel. So that right there is a very short list, and again, we will publish a longer list down in the comment section or description of the video. So that's it for this video. It was really interesting to learn all of this stuff, and I'm hoping it was helpful for you guys to have all this information gathered. I would definitely recommend reading all of the articles that I'm gonna link down below. Look through those lists of plants as well if it's something you deal with. And also, it's likely if you're watching this video, like if you clicked on it or if you searched for this topic and found this video, it's likely that you are dealing with this or have dealt with this issue in your own garden. So I would love to know from you what your experience is. So please leave me a comment down below. We can start a discussion about this because I think it's a really great way to learn from each other. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.